Hello everyone. Today we're looking at the round 9 game of the St. Louis US Chess Championship. And this game features the tournament leader Fabiano Caruana with the black pieces versus Grandmaster Alexander Lenderman with the white pieces. Here we go. C4, English opening. E6, Caruana maintains maximum flexibility. Knight c3. And the reason why I say black has maximum flexibility because at this point black can play d5 going into a queen's gambit. F5 is possible going into a Dutch defense. C5 is even possible. Or knight f6 entering into Nimzo Indian territory. So Caruana chose d5. Lenderman played d4. Now we're in a queen's gambit situation. Bishop e7. This move is designed to avoid the traditional lines in the queen's gambit decline exchange variation. If knight f6 was to be played, for instance, then if white wanted to, he could just go into the exchange variation with bishop g5, put in a lot of pressure on white. And a lot of players with the black pieces, Aronian being one of them, like to avoid this setup. So therefore, they delay moving this knight in preference to bringing the bishop out early, which prevents the maneuver. So bishop e7 is played. So as you can see, bishop g5 would not work here because black would just capture the bishop on g5. So c takes d5. There's your exchange variation. E takes d5. But again, the bishop on c1 cannot go to g5, but he has to get out of the pawn chain, so he goes to f4, which is pretty harmless for black. So this is a good move order to play if you would like to avoid the other lines in the exchange variation. Caruana continue with c6, e3, preparing to bring the bishop out to d3, and sometime the queen will go to c2. Caruana makes an interesting move. Normal is just knight f6, finishing up on the king side with development, but Caruana preempts occupation of this square by the bishop and the queen by placing his bishop on the diagonal. So if white is to play bishop to d3, his bishop will promptly be exchanged. So therefore, Lenderman shows aggressive intentions and plays g4, attacking the bishop. Now, this move is interesting because in the semi-Slav opening, which is similar to this one, they're cousins, Queen's Gambit, Decline, Slav, they all have similar pawn structures, but you can look up on any chess site on the internet, just Google the Shirov-Shabalov Gambit in the semi-Slav, and you'll see a similar motif where white tries to launch an early attack on the king side. This usually entails, however, a wholesale sacrifice of the g-pawn. In this case, we see the g-pawn is protected by the queen. Excuse me. So there's no sacrifice. But ideas are similar in that white wishes to gain space on the king side and also fight for the center by restricting black's pieces, uh, namely the knight on f6, by threatening to play g5 and push it away from influencing the center. Also interesting in the Caro-Kann, you'll see early g4 and h4 played in some lines, and that's in the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. So it's interesting to see these ideas kind of assimilated, across different these across these similar looking pawn structures. Needless to say, though, the downside of the move g4 is that squares are left weak. The king side, white's king side, is left with some holes in it, and now white can't really castle over there and be safe. And then if you look on the queen side, you see the open c file, and be kind of difficult to castle over there. So white is either going to be planning on staying in the middle of the board, or just basically castling by hand and moving his king to wherever seems to be the safest as the game goes on. So g4 does have some good points, but it is definitely a committal move. Alright, so bishop e6 is played. h4. So white is all in with this king side attack. And of course the idea, as soon as this knight comes here, is to attack, push it away, and basically drive white's pieces away from the center, as I said. Okay, so h4 is played. Now, if you notice, you have the queen and bishop bearing down on this pawn, which is only defended once. But Caruana didn't take. And the reason why is because if bishop takes h4, queen comes to b3, attacking this pawn right here. And then after, say, b6, for example, knight f3, now this piece is doubly attacked. Bishop e7, queen c2, sacrificing another pawn. Bishop takes g4, knight e5. White has tremendous compensation in lieu of these open files. So, for instance, after knight f6, knight takes, rook takes, and black would want to take back because that would just bring the queen up in this area. So rook g8, bishop e2, knight f6, rook h1. And for that little deficit of a pawn, white has a fantastic position. So this is why Caruana did not bother to get greedy and take on h4. Instead, he just continued developing. And notice he developed his queen's knight to d7. He didn't bring this knight here because he already knows that the g5 is going to come. So g5 does come, but it's just at a cost of time to white. So black is ahead in development, and White has used a lot of time investing in building this restrictive pawn structure. So as long as it restricts uh, black's movement, it's okay. But once uh, this pawn structure stops performing its restrictive duties, then it becomes a clear uh, weakness and just counts as a waste of time. And this is kind of the theme in this game as we go forward here in the analysis, is that this pawn structure will become a burden rather than asset to white. So h6. So now we see the attack, excuse me, see the attack on the pawn right here at the head. So Lenderman wants to sacrifice to ruin the black pawn structure. Now the fault with that move is not only does it waste more time, but now the f6 square is open and the knight can safely uh, go there. So f5, excellent move. Bishop g3, because now this pawn is legitimately threatened. Now that the position has been closed up, this pawn was on prise now to be captured. Before it wasn't wise to capture it, but in this position. So notice all the time that has been wasted. Look at black's development. 4 minor pieces developed, and white has only developed 2 minor pieces. So black is already equalized and has the right to seek his initiative now in the middle game. Knight h3 is played. The idea is go here with the knight, attacking the bishop. Knight b6, preparing to retreat the bishop when this knight comes to f4. Knight f4, bishop d7, f3, planning to break down this stone wall type formation that white has. Castle. Now, as we examine white's structure over here on the king side, we can say that the structure is just a liability and a weakness now. First started out to gain space on the king side and also be an attacking force, and now it's neither. It's not attacking. The pawns on the G and H files aren't attacking anything, and they're just weaknesses right now that have to be protected. So I would say that white is worse at this point, although slightly. Okay, king f2. This is what we talked about earlier. It was like, where was the king gonna really go? So Lenderman just decides to get him in the file, basically put the king on the file that's most congested. Rook c8. Ideas of a break here sooner or later, because for black to show that his pieces are superior, the position has to be opened up at one point or another. Bishop d3. There it is, c5. King moves again. C takes d4, just opening up the position. E takes d4. Bishop d6. The bishop just improves itself. Queen b3 is a little pressure here now. We see We got three pieces weighing down on d5. King just moves over. Get out the pin. So bishop b5 is played. Again, inquiring minds would like to know, well, why can't we take this pawn? Let's say, for example, the knight on the c file decides to take. Well, this is a huge blunder. Knight f takes d5. Knight takes d5. And this is gonna hurt. Bishop a4. Now, where's the queen gonna go? The queen has to get off the B and C files in order to protect itself. But if the queen protects itself, then the knight on d5 is gonna fall. So that, my friends, is why, let's go back, is why this pawn d5 was not captured. So instead, bishop b5 is played. Now, I can already tell that Lenderman was kind of desperate here. The reason why is because this move bishop b5 doesn't really make sense strategically. You look at these pawns and you look at the white bishop. This bishop, black's light square bishop. This bishop is not really even in the game. I know if I had to choose which bishop, if I prefer white's light square bishop or black's light square bishop, I would choose white's. It's a better piece at this moment. Although there's no real way to increase the pressure, it's still no reason for him to trade his good bishop on d3 off for the bishop on d7 that's doing absolutely nothing. So even though he's slightly worse, he probably should have did a move, maybe get the rooks in the game. This rook's not doing nothing. Why not move this rook here, or maybe here or something, or perhaps do something with this rook? I prefer to move the A rook, since this pawn could still be pushed, and maybe this rook is useful on the H file. Okay, so after king h8, Lenderman played bishop b5. So I know when I saw this move, I was like, wow, I just snatched that bishop off. Okay, so bishop takes f4 was played first. Bishop takes f4. Attacking the piece is hanging. Bishop hops into e5. It looks intimidating. But watch how Caruana just breaks white down real quick. So good bishop traded for bad bishop there. Queen takes b5. Now this is all in black's favor, because black is just simplifying down to a winning endgame. Look at all these weak pawns. How can white defend all of them? He can't. So now this knight improves himself. Looking at this. Looking at a check there. Looking to remove this bishop. So this rook ae1. It's bad to take this pawn, but I'll just show you anyway. So if queen takes b7, and just simple move like queen e8, attacking this. and that at the same time is good. Is good enough. Okay, so back to the game. Rook a e1 was played. Knight takes e5, just getting rid of um, white's best piece probably. Rook takes e5, and look, we have one, two, three pieces all on d5. But Caruana has everything under control. This pawn is even on priest. Queen f6, very strong move, because white is dealing with king safety issues. So even though black has some material on priest, the more important issue is that white's king is on priest. So after queen f6, the king moves again. King f2. Queen takes g6. He's coming after her. Rook g1. Queen f6. Again, if you can't see, this is what is being threatened with check. And the theme right now is basically that white's king has no safe haven. So the rook goes back to h1 to protect his pawn and kind of offer a draw also. He would love to repeat the position right now. But now the knight comes in, and we iron that. And it's always good to just recognize your forks, even though it's not possible right now because the queen is right here guarding this square. It's good to just have a mental picture of it. So king e3 is played. Knight g6, just threatening the rook on e5, because of course black would love to take over the e file. So rook takes d5, but we had two pieces here, so knight takes h4. Rook d7. Queen g5 check. King d3. And now this pawn is going to drop. Again, there's just nothing really that can be done. This is just a horrible move, as queen g3 will be quickly played. So king d3 was played. Knight takes f3. Rook d1 to stop the check on d2. Queen g2 was played. Rook takes b7. So Lenderman figures he'll get a couple of extra pawns as parting gifts, souvenirs. This is what we talked about a few minutes ago, taking over the e file. It's a completely natural move. There's probably several moves that win here, but rook fe8 was played. Again, a natural move. Rook c7. Rook b8. Queen c6. And Lenderman is basically trying to keep some pressure on one of the rooks, so that basically, like, if this rook moves, then he on b8, then he'll capture the rook on e8. That was the idea behind this move, rook c7, for instance. Here, then he would check right there. So of course, Caruana is not falling for none of that stuff. Rook ed8, just pressure, 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 and the theme is the safety of the king. That's just probably the last 15-20 moves are revolving around that theme. King c4. There's no way the king is surviving. There's too many heavy pieces on the board. Rook takes d4, check. Rook takes d1. Knight takes d1. Queen g1. King e4. Excuse me, king c4. And queen d4 is mate. So this nice efficient game from Caruana.